so that we can go ahead and get started and make sure that we get down to business. So, as I said, if you joined this live and said, oh my gosh, what is she doing playing music? Then you might not be in the right place, because as I said, somebody said they love dance and Zumba. All right. So I'm trying to show as many comments as I can while I'm talking with you. And so I am so excited that you're here. And my hope is that if you have diabetes, if you have prediabetes, if you are just curious about diabetes, if you know someone that has diabetes, if you are just interested in how to better your health, I am so glad you are here. And for those of you who haven't met me, let me go ahead and introduce myself. I am Dr. Jerika Dodd, and I am the founder and CEO of Your Pharmacy Advocate. And, it's so important that we take the time, especially during this pandemic. I know that we're all on the edge of our seats waiting for what's going to happen with the outcome of the election. But I will tell you this, that whether your candidate wins or loses, what you need to choose is your health, and to put your health first. Because the thing that I have come to understand during this entire pandemic season is that you are responsible for your health. It is so important that you take responsibility for your health, because it's no one else's responsibility. It's not your doctor's responsibility. It's not your spouse's responsibility, and it's surely not the responsibility of your adult children to take care of your health if you have the capability, the mental capability to do that. So I'm going to encourage you to think about taking charge of your health. And so the reason that I even decided to talk about diabetes is the fact that I have family members with diabetes. I take care of patients as a pharmacist with diabetes. And I said, oftentimes I hold back and I don't want to share too much information. I don't want to overwhelm people with what I know about health. And so then I don't share as much. But I was like, you know what? I got a new diabetes patient last week. I talked to my family members that have diabetes very, very frequently. And I was like, I've got to turn the camera on and I've got to start sharing. So just so that you are aware a little bit more of who I am, if I don't know you and maybe somebody invited you and said, you got to get on this webinar and see what she's talking about, I want to let you know my journey and my health story. So for the first 40 years of my life, I thought that my job was to make everybody happy. It was actually at the age of 8 that my father told me, it's not your job to make everybody happy. But at 8 years old, what do you know about not making everybody happy? So I went on in life and grew up, obviously, and still made it my business and thought that I was supposed to make everybody happy. So yes, I definitely achieved going to pharmacy school and several other achievements in life. But I really thought that it was my goal and my job and my responsibility to make others happy. And you can imagine that didn't bode well when for 13 years I missed some of the own signs and symptoms of my own health, telling me that something was wrong. And so it wasn't until I was sitting in the neurosurgeon's office and he said, you need brain surgery, that I had my first wake-up call. Like, it was like I hit that brick wall and was like, oh my gosh, I've got to do something. And so what I started learning was that I had to learn how to prioritize me, because I had also been told that I was pre-diabetic. And so I had to learn that I needed to prioritize myself, and that it really wasn't my job, like my dad told me at 8 years old, to make everybody else happy. So instead of helping everyone else build their wants, wishes, dreams, and desires, I decided that it was time for me to start building my own wants, wishes, dreams, and desires. So first I had to get my health in order. So I did have brain surgery 4 years ago, and I am so grateful. And I praise God that I can stand here and that I can talk to you 4 years later and I feel amazing. The second thing that came up with regard to my health was I started falling asleep while I was driving and had no idea why. It wasn't a fallout or a sequelae of having brain surgery. There was no explanation. And all I know is that I was given prescriptions to keep me awake during the day and then to help me sleep at night. And I decided that that was not how I wanted to live my life. And I made some very important decisions in my life to put me first. So the first decision that I needed to make was that I left my role in church ministry, where it was, I was very active and very much a part. And then the second decision I made was to leave my job in the pharmaceutical industry, where I worked full time, and have become a full-time entrepreneur for 2 years now. So with that, that was my first foray, if you will, in putting myself first, and especially putting my health first, because I knew that if I kept going the way that I was on a crash collision course. And especially when I was at the point of falling asleep driving, I knew that I was going to either kill myself or somebody else or both. So with that, I made those decisions. And the last 2 years has been an amazing journey, because as a result of prioritizing myself, prioritizing my health, one of the things that I have been able to do is to, one, build a consulting practice, Your Pharmacy Advocate, where I take care of patients. I've also been able to build a pharmacist coaching practice where I coach women pharmacists to build their own businesses. And so I have patients and I have coaching clients that I absolutely adore. You may, if you are connected with me on Facebook, you may have seen that I traveled to Thailand last year, and it was amazing. I did a lot of traveling. Now that we're in a pandemic, not so much, but I did a lot of traveling, and I've been able to go to some amazing places in the world. And I attribute that to prioritizing myself and what I wanted in my own life. And then the third thing that I will say is that I am part of a community, and then I turn around and actually build communities with my magazine as well as with my coaching communities. I build communities of women entrepreneurs who not only are associates in business, but they become friends, and they become colleagues, and they become advocates for each other to support each other on their journey in business. And I have that as well. And so it's for that reason that I truly enjoy and love what I do. And part of what I do, as I said, is take care of patients to help them live healthier, fuller lives. And so as I was taking care of a diabetes patient last week, as I said, I talked to my family members that have diabetes frequently. It impressed upon me the need to turn on the camera and just start teaching. And so I want to tell you, because oftentimes when I'm talking to patients and they're telling me about their diabetes, and they're telling me how many 4, 5, 6, 7 medications they're on to manage their diabetes, oftentimes they are really happy to report that their numbers are great. Their blood sugar is right where it's supposed to be. And I say, yes, that's because you're on 6 or 7 medications for your diabetes, or you're on medication period for your diabetes. So I can imagine that your numbers are what they are supposed to be, because we have all this medication on board managing your diabetes. But can you imagine managing your diabetes without having to have multiple medications? Because let me tell you a little secret that no one's going to tell you about your medications. Eventually, they're going to stop working, especially if you don't make changes in your lifestyle, in the food that you eat, and in the way that you move your body. So that's why I started this live with music and dancing, because it is so important that you move. We are not made to just sit still. And I know that when the pandemic happened, we ended up spending more time at home, sitting down more, but it is so important that you just don't sit still. These bodies are made to move. So even if you have to turn on your favorite songs for 10, 15 minutes, 30 minutes a day, there are times when I dance for 45 minutes. You need to move. And so it's very, very important that you understand that if you don't do something to change the cause of why you ended up being pre-diabetic or diabetic, then the medication is only just slowing things down for the moment. And eventually, what will happen is you will have to keep changing medications because they won't work as well anymore. And so, let me say something to those people who have been told that they're pre-diabetic and they've likely been offered metformin for being pre-diabetic. If you are pre-diabetic, you need to do something now. You don't need to wait until you are diabetic before you go, oh, I think now I need to do something about this. If you are pre diabetic, you need to do something now, because ultimately, if you're pre diabetic and you don't make any changes, then you can just about bank on it. You're going to become diabetic. So don't let somebody telling you that you are pre diabetic be your excuse to go, oh, it'll be all right. I'll just take this medication they gave me and I won't change my food, I won't change my movement, and I won't change my lifestyle, meaning stress, whatever it is that's going on in your life. I won't change those things, and I'll just keep going, because I promise you, you will have a diagnosis that comes surely for diabetes. So that's why when I talked about this and I advertised this, I said, this is for you if you're pre-diabetic or if you're diabetic. So with that, understand, like I said, if you're pre-diabetic or you're diabetic, it's likely, especially if you're diabetic, it's likely that you're going to be given medications. And many people get their nice little bag of medications from the pharmacy, they go home. And so the first problem that we have is, do you take them like they are prescribed? Because the medication is no good if you don't take it. You have to take your medication or it doesn't work. However, and this is not a conversation suggesting that you should not take your medication. I don't want you and your doctors being upset with me. So this is general information. My goal is to help you understand why you need to understand what's going on, so that when you make changes, you will require less medication and ultimately, hopefully, no medication. But this is not meant for you to say tomorrow, oh, that's it, no medication for me. No, don't do that. However, understand that when you take a medication, when you put anything, food included, down your throat, there's a risk and a benefit. And so you have to understand that with every medication you take, there are potential for side effects, there are potential for interactions with other medications that you're taking, which is quite common. There are interaction possibilities with the food that you eat. It's not like you can just swallow a pill and there's no problems. It has to which you need a pharmacist to make sure that that medication that you're taking, that it's being monitored against any supplements that you may be taking, any over-the-counter medications that you're taking, any herbals, any natural, anything that you're taking needs to be weighed against what medications you're on, because you just don't want to open your mouth, throw back your head, and just pour all these medicines down your throat, and we don't even know what works best with what else and what interactions there possibly are. Also understand that long-term use of some medications can cause the very problems that we're trying to avoid. So understand that taking medication is not just a simple, oh, I'll just take medication and it'll be great and no problems, no side effects, no issues, and everything will be great, because number one, you're still diabetic and that disease process is still taking place in the background, even though you're taking medication. Because if you don't change what it is that you're doing, you have to understand that if you don't change, then nothing will change. So the other thing I want you to understand about medication is the fact that if you haven't seen it, you can definitely Google it. There have been many medication recalls. And so it started where we were having the medication recalls on some of the high blood pressure medications. Then we started having medication recalls on some of the acid reflux drugs. Now we've seen most recently, medication recalls on metformin. And, it's interesting that when there's a medication recall, in this country, we run to see, and we run and call the pharmacy or run to see, what lot number we have. We run to see, who the manufacturer is of the particular medication that we have. But does it ever occur to us to get off the medication? What do I need what do I need to do so I don't even have to take this medication anymore? Because I had a family member at a family gathering one time talk to me about the high blood pressure medication and the fact that so many had been recalled. And she said to me, well, it's okay because my doctor and we found the right manufacturer where they haven't recalled theirs. And so I'm taking that version of the medication. And I said, but the thing that you want to do is let's figure out how to get you off the medication, because it's just that they haven't recalled that one yet. So if you think about when medication, metformin started to be recalled, it wasn't all of them, and it's still not all of them. But as time goes on, we continue seeing different manufacturers added to that list. Well, maybe your manufacturer's version of metformin, if you're taking that, and I'm using that as an example, has not been recalled yet, but we can't say that it won't ever be recalled. And my stance is, why not get off the medication? Why not do what you need to do to get off the medication? So then you don't even have to worry about a recall. When they have a recall, that doesn't apply to you. So just because your medication has not been recalled doesn't mean that it won't be. And think about it like this. The reason that these classes of medications have been recalled is not necessarily for the actual drug or the medication itself. It's because as a byproduct of manufacturing it, there's a chemical that is carcinogenic or it's cancer causing. And so you have to understand that it's not in the drug, it's in the manufacturing, and the drug has to be manufactured in order for you to get it. And so if you think about, in this country, we want generics, and that's great. I think that generics are fine because they're less costly, but we're so excited in the United States to have $4 generic medications. We want cheap medicine, but then look at the high price that we pay in the fact that it could have cancer-causing agents. If it's a byproduct of the manufacturing, it can cause some of the very problems that we're taking it for. And so, and then I already talked about drug interactions but we just want it for $4. We want our meds and we want it for $4 and we want it cheap. And so, and I'm not saying that the brand is necessarily any better. I'm saying, what about focusing on, how about I don't need to take the medication at all? Because I believe that you either pay now or you pay later. So in the quest for cheap medications to manage diseases that we could actually manage ourselves, if we took the time to learn, if we took the time to say, okay, this is not a quick fix, but I really want to change my outcome. I want to live a healthier life. Because I'll tell you this, in the United States, we spend a lot of money on healthcare. We really do. But we don't live any longer than any other developed nation, and we don't have a better quality of life than any other person, on average, people in other developed nations. So why are we spending all this money, but yet we're not having better outcomes? And the reason I believe that we're not having better outcomes is we are not, number one, being responsible for our own health. So we go to the doctor and they say, okay, you're pre-diabetic, you're diabetic. We go, all right, give me the medicine. And then we go home and we take the medicine and we keep going as if nothing has ever changed. We keep eating the same diet. We keep sitting on the couch and not moving. And then we wonder when we get to the point where we're having heart attacks, we're having eye problems, we're having neuropathy and nerve pain, we're having amputations. And then we're like, well, how did that happen? We've got kidney failure. And we're like, well, how did that happen? Well, it happened because we didn't do anything to really reverse the problem. Medication doesn't reverse the problem. So if you are pre-diabetic, if you are diabetic, and you are not trying to reverse the problem, if you're not changing your attitude first and your behavior, then you're going to still end up with all of the horrible things, unfortunately, that come. They may take a while to happen, but they will come because diabetes really is a state of inflammation in your body. And I purposefully am keeping this conversation general, in that it was my goal not to get on here and get all cerebral with you and get all nerdy and brainiac. I just wanted to talk to you to say, hey, look, this is what's going on. You've got to stop and pay attention. You've got to decide that you're going to do something different, because unfortunately, the way our healthcare system is set up, I'm sure that your healthcare practitioners don't want you to be diabetic. However, they don't necessarily have the time to invest, to spend with you, to educate you, to understand what it is that your needs are so that you can reverse the problem. So I remember being in school and coming home at the end of my freshman year and going to the doctor. And I remember her turning around to me, and she was writing notes on her chart. And she turned around to me before she walked out at the end of the appointment and said, "You need to lose weight." And that's all she said. So if you can imagine me sitting on the exam table at 19 years old, and obviously I'd definitely gained probably that freshman 15 or even more. What does that mean? How many people have ever gone to the doctor and been told, you need to lose weight, you need to get your diabetes under control, you need to ... How many people have ever been told that? But then are you really given the tools that you need? Are you given the education that you need? Who sat down and listened to you and said, okay, who's doing the grocery shopping? Okay, who's doing the food preparation in the house? Who has sat down and really spent time to get to know you and those things to help you flip that diagnosis of diabetes so that you can live a healthier, fuller life? Generally, in the grand scheme of things, healthcare professionals in the traditional healthcare model don't have that kind of time. The average time that a patient spends in the exam room with a physician is about 7 to 10 minutes. So by the time you are finished saying what the problem is that you're presenting to the doctor for, I mean, you're out of there. 7 to 10 minutes is not a long time to be in the doctor's office and being told, that you have diabetes, and even explaining to you, now what do you do? And so oftentimes when patients come to me, they're in dire straits and they're saying, I've got to do something. I look at this list of medications I'm on. It's so long. I don't want to take all this. And oftentimes, usually it's a financial motivation that they don't want to spend that kind of money every month on getting their refills of their medication. However, I've had some patients come to me and say, my doctor said if I don't do something, they're going to put me on insulin. And usually patients don't want to go on insulin because they don't want to deal with the needles and all of that. And so therefore they say, I don't want to do that. No. So then they're like, okay, now what can I do? But imagine if you didn't wait until you were in dire straits. You didn't wait until you were threatened with being put on insulin. Imagine if you got a diagnosis of prediabetes and diabetes, and you started making small incremental changes that turned that diagnosis around. Imagine that. Imagine the things that you could do on your own so that you wouldn't have a need for medication. That after a while, what happens is you'll be on medication and then it won't work as well. And then we'll switch out and we'll give you different medication, and that'll work for a while. And then we'll switch out and we'll give you different medications. And there will definitely be more new medications developed for diabetes, because diabetes is an epidemic proportion. And unfortunately, it is disproportionately rampant in ethnicities of color. So people of color have more diabetes than our Caucasian counterparts. And so imagine just over time, we're just switching medicines and switching medicines and switching medicines, but nothing else has changed. So you haven't started exercising or getting more movement in. You haven't changed your eating, and we just take medicine. then we can't expect for a whole lot to change. And I'm telling you, as I said earlier, we end up with the kidney failure and then being on dialysis, amputation because the limb no longer is has the blood flow and the blood supply that it needs because it's damaged our nerves. We have heart attacks because diabetes definitely impacts the blood vessels in our entire body, but especially our heart. We end up having retinal problems because our eyes, the blood vessels in our eyes have all been impacted. And over time, these things, can you imagine what they cost compared to your $4 generic medications that you picked up, or even the copays that you pay for brand medication? It's not worth it. So it's so important that you decide that you want to change things and that you're going to take things in your own hands and take control of your health and not wait for someone else to do it for you, because no one else can do it for you. So the title of this live tonight is "Friends Don't Let Friends Eat White Products Made from White Flour." So let me say that again. Friends don't let friends eat food made from white flour. And so you might have chuckled because you might have remembered decades ago when there was the slogan, "Friends don't let friends drive drunk." There's, all kinds of ads that would say, you wouldn't let your friend drive drunk because, they're going to kill themselves or kill someone else. Well, I personally believe that if you are diabetic or you know someone who's diabetic, you really want to be a friend to them and help them understand why they don't want to eat foods with white flour. And so you go, well, why are we talking about foods with white flour? Because I wanted to give you something practical when you walked away from spending this time with me. I wanted to give you something practical so that you would understand that there are things that you can do to make changes. So let's think about white flour and how it becomes white flour. So stay with me because I don't have any graphics to show you, but you've seen pictures of wheat, and you may even know this already, but you've seen pictures of wheat. And do you understand that in the United States, our country wants white flour? We want white flour, we want white sugar, and we want white salt. So these things do not occur in nature white. They have to be bleached. So when wheat is harvested, it has to be bleached. And the way it's bleached is it's bleached with chlorine gas. So chlorine is used to bleach wheat so that it is no longer brown, how it grows. And as a result, and if you know anything about chlorine, it's why we want it out of our water, and that's another conversation, but it's why we want to filter it out of our water, because chlorine is it's an irritant. It is definitely recognized as a chemical that's not good for us. So if you can imagine, the wheat that's used to make flour is washed with chlorine gas, then we already have the wheat being treated with a substance that in our everyday, we want as little to contact with chlorine as possible. So wheat is washed with chlorine gas, and as a result, there's a toxin that forms. So let me back up. If you know anything about wheat and farming and harvesting and storing wheat, one of the other problems with it is that it has to be kept at a certain temperature, because if it's damp, if it's moist, if it's humid, if you will, under those types of conditions, then it has the potential to grow fungus. So that can also cause a lot of GI problems, if you will, a lot of stomach problems. So that's another concern with wheat. However, wheat, after it's washed with chlorine gas, develops a toxin as a byproduct of it being washed, because in this country we want white flour. So that toxin that's formed on wheat as a result of washing it with chlorine, that toxin is called alloxin. And that toxin is what is given to animals in laboratories to make them diabetic. So as medications are being developed, they have to be tested, and they're tested on animals before they are tested in humans. So that's called preclinical trials. So in preclinical trials, Alloxin is given to lab animals to cause them to develop diabetes so that the drugs can be tested to see if they are effective. So, if you think about the fact that the toxin that's formed on the wheat after it's washed with chlorine gas is the toxin that's given to lab animals to cause them to be diabetic so that we can test drugs on them. Think about what it's doing when the white wheat that the white wheat or the white flour products that you're ingesting have that toxin, what they're doing to you and to your body. They are potentially causing you to become diabetic. So, do you understand when I say you can take all the medicine that you want? You can take medicine all day long. But if you're still consuming the same things that likely helped you become diabetic, it won't matter that you're taking medicine. So, if you're consuming products made with white flour, and oh, don't worry if you say, well, I've got this taken care of. I eat things made from wheat flour. I'm coming down your street too, because what happens is the nutrients are stripped from wheat, and in order to make wheat flour, they try to add some of it back, but it still has been washed first with that chlorine gas, and then they add it back in order to give you wheat flour. So understand that unless you are using something like almond flour, something like quinoa flour, something like whole grain flour, then white or wheat flour, they're about the same. And you're likely ingesting the toxin that's used in laboratory animals to create diabetes in them. It's known that that toxin that I'm speaking of is called alloxin. That toxin will cause some of the cells of your pancreas to stop secreting insulin. It kills the cells in the pancreas, so they no longer secrete insulin. So you understand how if you keep eating the way that you've always eaten, even though you're taking medication, you are not helping your diabetes. You're still diabetic. Your body is still going down that train track towards those negative consequences because you're still ingesting the very things that made you diabetic. So if you think about the things that you eat with white bread, I know that one of the times that I love is the holidays because I love a good hot dog on the grill, and that's an entirely different conversation about hot dogs. But what comes with hot dogs and hamburgers? A bun. How many times have you gone to fast food and gotten a sandwich there and it comes on a bun? Well, if you think about it, usually that bun is made from white flour, and you go, well, I got the brown bun, or I got the bun that's like the made from wheat flour. What you have to understand is that you're still possibly ingesting that toxin, and that toxin that I spoke about, which is called alloxin, that toxin, no pun or no rhyme intended, that toxin is killing cells in your pancreas that normally would secrete insulin. And so, therefore, it's also making you more reliant on the medication that you're taking because you're definitely continuing to kill the cells. So, if you think about donuts and birthday cakes and anything processed and made with white or wheat flour, they're no good for us. But if you can imagine how often we eat them and we don't think anything about it, I hope that this, even just hearing this or being reminded of this, I hope that you are reminded why you don't want to eat things made from white flour anymore. Because while they taste great, and we won't talk about the sugar that's added, the white sugar that's added, or the food coloring that's often added to things like donuts and cakes and icings and what have you. So if you think about it, those type things are going to be the very things that continue to keep you sick, continue to be reliant on medication. And yes, they taste wonderful to our taste buds. However, it's so important to understand that even though it tastes great, doesn't mean it's great for our body. And it may be worth passing just to make sure that we don't introduce any more toxins into an environment that's already inflamed and that's already taking medication trying to combat the problem that we have. So, with that, I want you to understand that if you don't take away anything else, I want you to understand that eating foods made from white flour really no good. No good for you, no way, no good, no how. Don't do it because it's not worth ingesting that toxin, alloxin, over and over and over again and killing the very cells in your pancreas that are needed to secrete insulin so that your body can function the way that it's supposed to when your glucose levels go up. With that, I want you to understand that it's so important that you know things like this so that you can reverse your diabetes. It's very, very possible to turn diabetes around. You don't have to be diabetic from now on. I've had patients tell me, I had one patient tell me that he had been diabetic for 12 years and not one healthcare professional told him that it was possible to turn it around. And he told me, when I got down to asking, okay, what do you eat? What kind of, meals are you eating? And he told me the amount of bread that he ate. He had no idea that he was adding fuel to the fire, even though he was on medication trying to hopefully put the fire out. The medication doesn't put the fire out. The only way you can put the fire out is to start making changes such that you don't have fuel added to the fire. You start throwing water on that fire so it doesn't burn anymore. I've also had patients tell me that they have never been told really truly how to eat properly. I had one patient say, I really feel like my doctor has failed me in really helping me understand what's going on with my diabetes and what I can do to reverse it. And understand that it's important to you said, somebody said, I reversed my type 2 and over the last 8 months it's come back. It can absolutely be done. It sure can absolutely be done. It can definitely be reversed, but it takes a concentrated and concerted effort to do so. So as I was saying, the patient said that he felt like he had been failed by his physician in even understanding what to do and how to manage it. Oftentimes, and when I'm coaching my pharmacist clients who are building their own consulting businesses, I encourage them not to talk over patients' heads. Talk to them as if you're sitting next to them. Like, take that white coat off and just share with them and talk with them and understand where they're coming from. You can understand better what their questions are, and then talk to them in language that's not challenging them, and they're sitting there going, what is she talking about? Or what is he talking about? But talk to them in a way that they can understand how to be in control and take control of their health. So with that, that's just one of the things that I wanted to share with you this evening. I wanted you to understand that medications over time can cause more problems, that you usually end up getting more medications to take care of the problems that were caused by the first medications. And so understanding that that is a possibility, and it is definitely a possibility with medications that you take for diabetes, because usually diabetes medications come along with something for high blood pressure. Diabetes and high blood pressure tend to go hand in hand. And then you also generally see patients being treated for high cholesterol at the same time they're being treated for diabetes and high blood pressure. So when you have this cocktail mix, if you will, of medications, some medications can actually cause your blood sugar to go high or be cause hyperglycemia. And so you would never think that one medication could cause a problem that you're already trying to treat with another medication, but it's definitely possible. So understand that just taking medications is not always the answer, and it's not always the best long-term answer if you can do something about your health with regard to your lifestyle, your food, and your movement. And then remember what I said about medication medication recalls. There's a reason medications are being recalled, and they're being recalled because of a byproduct in the manufacturing process that can cause cancer. Well, if you're not on the medication, as I mentioned earlier, then you don't even have to worry about potentially having exposure to a byproduct of the manufacturing that causes cancer because you're not even on it. So instead of trying to focus solely on finding a manufacturer, or your pharmacy finding a manufacturer that doesn't have a recall on that particular version of the medication, I say, what about getting off the medication altogether and doing what you need to do so that that can be your outcome, that you don't even have to worry about how many recalls there are because you're not on it anymore. And then my third thing is to understand one practical thing that you can walk away with, and that's to not eat any more products that are made from white flour. And as I said, wheat flour is just as much of a culprit as white flour. So understanding that if you make that decision not to eat any more products that are made from white flour, that is a huge thing that you can do. And also understand that there are definitely ways that you can reverse the damage that's been done if you've eaten white bread and buns and products made from white flour for years. There are things that you can do to reverse that. So I want to pause at this point and say that I hope that you are walking away with some things to think about. It's probably not the most feel good conversation, but I'm very grateful that you at least heard me. And I hope that it causes you to do some different things with regard to your lifestyle, with regard to your eating, and with regard to your movement. You can't keep doing the same thing expecting a different outcome. And I also want to let you know that as a result of deciding that I want to teach more about diabetes, I want to truly help people live healthier, fuller lives. Because the motto when I was creating my consulting practice was that if I can help patients live healthier, fuller lives, then the people around them will also live healthier, fuller lives. Because when you're sick, then the people around you are also impacted. The people around you, their lives are also impacted. Their schedules are impacted. Their feelings for you are impacted. So if I can help patients live healthier, fuller lives, then not only am I impacting the life and the health of that patient, I'm impacting the lives and the health of the people who are in that patient's life. And so I hope that this information is such that you take it away, you think about it, and make a decision that you are going to make changes in your health and in your life. I have decided that over the next 8 weeks, I'm going to do more teaching, more in depth than what I've done tonight, but I'm going to do more teaching on diabetes because I want to help patients be able to turn that diagnosis around. I want to help patients be able to be armed with the information they need so that when they go to the grocery store, they know what it is to buy. I want them to understand how their medications are working in the short term and some of the challenges that they can have in the long term. And I also am going to be teaching patients on what types of things with regard to supplements that they can use to take to help reverse diabetes or prediabetes, as well as help them have less of a dependency on medication and be able to help them talk with their healthcare, their doctor, or whomever it is that they see for their healthcare, have conversations with them so that they can begin taking control of their health and taking this diabetes diagnosis and really turning it around, or that pre-diabetes diagnosis. So what I have done is I have put together a group, and it's actually on Facebook. So if you're here, then I know you know how to use Facebook, but I have put together a group. I'm going to run what's called a beta, where I'm I'm going to have a group for 8 weeks where I'm going to teach what I know to teach you about diabetes and how to reverse it, and hopefully have less of a dependence on medication if you even need medication at all. And I want to invite you to be a part of that. So whenever I do anything and I'm working out the kinks and making sure that it is going to be a product that I'll be able to bring to the market in the future, I discount it really, really low. So I've created a group and I named it Double Down on Diabetes, because I think that if you don't double down on diabetes, then you will have the outcomes that I mentioned before of the things that happen down the road with your health. So I've created a group called Double Down on Diabetes, and it's only for 8 weeks, so 2 months. And I know we're getting ready to go through the holidays, and I want to speak for a second to the attitude that some people have. Oh, just let me get through the holidays. And then when the new year comes, that's when I'll start doing this thing that I need to be doing to take care of my health. But I would encourage you not to wait another 8 weeks, because in 8 weeks, the holidays will be gone and we'll be in a new year. I'm going to encourage you not to wait another 8 weeks for the holidays to pass before you decide that you're not going to do any more damage to your body and that you're going to turn your diabetes around. So I'm inviting you to be a part of the beta group that I have formed called Double Down on Diabetes. And as I said, whenever I do something and I'm perfecting it and getting ready to bring it to the market, I do it for a very, very low cost. So it's for 2 months, and I lowered the price to $19.99 for each month. For month one, $19.99, and for month two, $19.99. For $20, you're going to have a pharmacist teach you what you need to know to get rid of your diabetes, to reverse your diabetes, understanding how, as long as you have to be on medication until you get your habits in order, understanding how to navigate the sea of the medications that you're taking, because most people don't understand that many medications cause you to be deficient in nutrients. And when we're deficient in nutrients, that's a lot of times what drives us to make some of the food choices that we're making, because we're deficient in nutrients and we don't know it. And therefore, we're just making choices because we recognize it as, oh, I have a craving for fill in the blank. And really, it's a nutrient deficiency. So in that 8 weeks, I'm going to help you understand how to shop. I'm going to help you understand what's actually happening in your body. I'm going to help you understand how the medications are working in your body, but how you can best make changes in your diet, in your food intake, in your movement, such that you will have less of a need for your diabetes medication. I'm going to ask my assistant if you can give me one link at a time. So if I can get the link for, oh, I can't see who it is. It says Facebook user who says, I love this. I'm in. This would be incredibly helpful. Sign me up, please. We're going to get that link placed in the comments again. Can I just get the link for not the Facebook group? I want the link for the Double Down on Diabetes, so that they can go directly to that link and they can sign up. And once you sign up, you will receive an email automatically. And when you receive that email, it will have the link to get in the Facebook group. And I am going to begin teaching next week. So on Monday of next week, I'm going to begin teaching so that we can get started and take this next 8 weeks to do as much as possible to turn around this diabetes. So I have somebody else says, yes, I will definitely allow you to sign up, Ms. Franklin. So if I can get that link again, let me ask my administrator if you can possibly post the link for the Double Down on Diabetes so that they can go directly to that link and sign up for it. So again, I will be teaching for 8 weeks how to reverse diabetes and how to begin talking to your physician or your healthcare practitioner with regard to the names. It looks like, I think what I'm going to have to do, let me see if I can get to the link, if you will, and see if I can get you a shorter link to. For some reason, when we're posting it on Facebook, it's becoming like this really, really long link. I'm not able to get that in. So I tell you what, this is what we can do. Technology, you gotta love it because sometimes it's gonna go wrong, but we gotta still keep moving forward. If you will go to Facebook Messenger and send me a message and just say, I want in. You don't have to say anything else because I know what you're talking about because nobody else is going to be sending me messages saying I want in. If you will send me a message in Facebook Messenger that says, oh, the link that is working, that's posted. Oh, okay. Thank you, Nikki. All right. So it sounds like the link is working. It just looks extremely long. I didn't know if that was it. Okay. So thank you to my administrator for helping me and getting that link there. So if you click on that link, as long as it is, it will take you to a page and there'll be a really little short video. It's like 2 minutes. It's a video of me welcoming you and telling you what we're going to do in this 8 weeks. And again, this is not meant to take the place of a healthcare practitioner and what they are instructing you to do, but it's helping to arm you with information so that you can take care of your health, so that you can begin to get in front of taking care of your health and have better conversations with your healthcare practitioner. So understand that I'm there to teach so that you truly understand what's happening with you, so that you truly understand what's happening with your body, that you can work on reversing this inflammatory state that you're in. So I'm also going to ask that if you know anyone who is diabetic and maybe they're not here, I heard the request to ask to make the video available on and make it shareable. I definitely will. However, I'll see how I can get that done from StreamYard. But I invite you, if there's someone that you can invite into the group, invite them into the group, and this video will be at the top of the group, and I will also work on making it shareable. Making it shareable will be on the Your Pharmacy Advocate page, so I'll definitely make sure that all of that is noted and you'll know where to find this video so that you can share it with anyone who's diabetic, who's pre-diabetic. And if they would like to join us, whatever is done in this 8 weeks will be recorded, so even if someone isn't able to start with us right now or Monday, if you will, they're actually able to jump in and they'll be able to go back and review what it is that they, haven't seen yet or missed up until the point they join. But I really, really want you to understand that if you're pre-diabetic or you're diabetic, don't wait until 2021 and say that then you're going to work on it. Don't sit around another year and say, oh, after the holidays, because I think many of us this year can definitely understand that things can change in a minute. When we think about this pandemic, we think about the fact that one day the pandemic, there's that link again, so you're able to see that. One day we were all going about life as normal, and then the next day we're in the pandemic and we were on lockdown. And I would probably say that it's been even more of a struggle to manage health being in our houses all the time and not on the go like we used to be, and even a challenge. Even though we're home and we have more time hopefully to focus on our health, it's still a challenge. And so don't wait until 2021, because like I said, things can change in a heartbeat, and we've all seen that. So I hope that you are going to see me and that I'm going to see you in the Double Down with Diabetes group. I welcome you there. And again, I'm going to go more in depth. I'm going to teach what it is that's happening with diabetes in your body. I'm going to teach how you can make small changes, like no more products made with white flour, so that you are able to make the changes that you need, because understanding that medication is only going to work for a while. So I am so grateful that you joined me. If there are any questions, you can definitely put them in the chat, and I will, I'm sure, get back with you with answers on those questions. I'm not able to answer specific questions to your health. So let me say that if you have a need to talk to a pharmacist directly, and you need more one-on-one support, I've got a link that I'll have my administrator put in the comments so that if you want to schedule to book one-on-one time with me, you're able to do that. But I surely, surely hope that I'm going to see you inside the Double Down with Diabetes group, because we are going to roll up our sleeves and we are going to make some changes in health so that we can have healthier, fuller lives. So I welcome you to join me. I'm going to ask my administrator again if you would put the link to schedule my calendar. Coconut flour. I think that coconut flour will definitely be a better alternative to the wheat flour. So I got that question about coconut flour. And here's a link if you would like to schedule a one-on-one patient consultation with me, where I can take a look at your specific health, your specific medications, and have a better conversation with you than I'm able to do in a group. However, again, I welcome you and I look forward to seeing you inside of the Double Down with Diabetes. Either you, if you want to come for yourself, or if you want to come get the information for someone you are caring for that has diabetes, or send them that link. Feel free to take it, copy it, send it to someone and say, you know what, for $20 and a pharmacist is going to be teaching, you definitely need to be able to get in this class. And someone else gave me a note that says it could be very well be on my part that you can't reach. You're going to Messenger with your request. Okay, definitely we'll look for your request and I will respond and get you that information and that link so that you can click on it. Thank you again for joining me. Remember, dance every day and be the one to take charge of your health to change the outcomes and the results that you're getting. All right. Oh, somebody already signed up. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I'm looking forward to sharing more education, more practical tips that you can use to reverse your diabetes. Take care. Bye.